I'm Dave Collins with cleverhiker.com, and in this episode we're going to take a look at choosing great campsites on the trail. Choosing a great campsite will lead to incredibly memorable trips, but it's not as simple as just throwing a tent down on a flat piece of dirt. If you choose your campsite poorly, you could damage wilderness areas, expose yourself to wind and cold temperatures, or even wake up with a couple inches of standing water in the bottom of your shelter. First of all, make sure to know the regulations of the area that you'll be backpacking in. Many areas have established campsites that they ask you to camp in. And in popular areas, you may even have to reserve specific sites well before your trip. For that reason, finding great campsites often starts at home when you're planning your trip. Established campsites might be marked on your map or your guidebook, and they may even be marked on the trail with signs. Other times you'll have to find established campsites on your own. When you're planning your trip, try and consider spots that other hikers would likely want to camp. For example, if there's a river crossing or a lake in an area that's a few miles from any other water source, it's probably an area that other backpackers have wanted to camp in, so there's probably established campsites nearby. Have a general plan for where you'd like to camp, but make sure to leave room for flexibility. Sometimes you'll get to a spot where you plan to camp, but you feel like going farther. Other times the weather might be bad and you feel like stopping early. Either way, being flexible is an important part of any successful backpacking trip. It's generally a good idea to plan on reaching your camp with at least a couple hours of daylight left. It's not a lot of fun setting up your camp in the dark, and it can be even worse if it's raining. Setting up your camp will take some time. You'll want time to set up your shelter, clean up after your hike, cook dinner, pump water, and hang your bear bag for the night. Also, finding a good stopping point for the day can sometimes be tricky. You won't know what a campsite looks like until you get there, but you can use your topographical map to make an informed judgment ahead of time. Established campsites are generally in beautiful areas not far from the trail with easy water access. They often have established fire rings, a few spots to pitch a shelter, and may even have some good rocks or logs for sitting. Camping in established sites is also the best way to minimize your impact on the environment, rather than impacting a pristine site for the first time. Most established campsites have easy water access, which is a convenient feature. Having easy water access will make cleaning up after your hike, cooking dinner, cleaning dishes, and purifying water all a lot easier. Camping by water can be very nice, but you should always leave enough room to give an unobstructed path to the water for wildlife. The Leave No Trace guideline is to camp at least 200 feet away from all water sources. Some established campsites are dry sites, meaning that they won't have any water access. You'll have to carry more water to camp at a dry site, but they can be very pleasant as well. Dry camps often have great views and fewer bugs. They can also help you avoid cold and wet conditions. Low spots in valleys by rivers are generally the coldest and wettest spots to camp. So if you avoid camping by water, you can reduce the amount of condensation on your shelter and also provide a warmer night's rest. Camping in established sites is the preferred method for most backpackers, but there are some downsides worth mentioning. The ground in an established campsite is generally packed down pretty hard, and it may have exposed roots or rocks. It's not usually a problem for inflatable pad users, but for foam pad sleepers, it can lead to an uncomfortable night's rest. Also, established campsites can sometimes attract unwanted animal attention. Backpackers that don't properly store their food can make it possible for animals to have an easy meal. Once animals learn that backpackers provide easy meals, they keep coming back to scavenge for more food. For this reason, established campsites can sometimes have nighttime rodent problems, like mice looking for food or searching for materials to build their homes. In rare cases, established campsites might be frequented by larger animals like bear or deer, so always make sure to properly store your food, for your benefit and for future backpackers. An alternative to established campsites commonly used by ultralight hikers and thru hikers is called stealth camping. Stealth camping is when backpackers walk away from the trail to find unused and secluded spots to camp for the night. Hikers who practice stealth camping only do it in areas where it's allowed and always minimize their impact on the environment. Stealth camping can be a good option, especially for long-distance hikers who are trying to hit daily trail mileage targets. One of the most important rules of stealth camping is that you have to leave the area exactly as you found it without any trace of your presence. Be careful not to trample any vegetation or harm any animals or their habitats. It's best for stealth campers to stay away from building fires. The danger of starting a forest fire is increased at a non-established site, and signs of fires are very hard to erase. When you're considering camping in an area, whether it's an established site or a stealth site, make sure you pay close attention to where you're going to set up your shelter. The most important factor to look for is good water runoff, not a perfectly flat area, so make sure to take a very close look at the ground where you plan to pitch your shelter. If a rainstorm were to break out, where would the water go? Look for signs of previous puddles on the ground and good water drainage. You want to find a campsite that's at a slight angle, which will keep you dry and comfortable. Also pay close attention to the wind exposure of your shelter site. It can be nice to have an open view, but make sure that you're not going to be too exposed if a storm rolls in. Using a small stand of trees or bushes is a great way to reduce your wind exposure and also protect yourself if the storm rolls in. Set up your shelter away from any cliffs or areas that might have falling rocks. Also, take a look at the trees around your site to make sure there aren't any dead limbs or trees that could fall over if strong winds start to blow. Use common sense in the backcountry and follow these guidelines to greatly improve your camping experiences. I'm Dave Collins with CleverHiker.com. Hike light, hike smart, and have fun.